We're still morning, it's 11:40, so we're still morning. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here today at the S.H.A.C meeting, at the Student Health Advisory Council meeting. I would like to introduce myself and let's get this meeting started. I did want to say again, thank you for coming. I know the weather's kind of nasty, it's kind of cold, so thank you all for being here today. So just wanted to let you all a little bit know about the School Health Advisory Council meeting. This meeting is a group of individuals in our community, parents, district employees, anybody who serves within our school district. If you have any children to come to our schools, this committee, we give recommendations to the board on any topics that you may have. So throughout our meetings, we have 4 meetings throughout the year. We have 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, and we really just like to hear feedback. Thank you all for being a part of this committee, because I understand during the day it's kind of hard to get away from work or the classroom, but we do want to thank you all. So my name is Roxana Robledo. I'm one of the athletic coordinators. I am the co-chair for this committee. Coach Bobby Cruz is the chair of this committee, but he is not available today. So today within our meeting, we are going to cover 2 very important topics. And these topics are very important because they target a lot of things going on in our school districts. So we will be going over the new S.H.A.C update, which is S.H.A.C is what the district has in place for safety measures for our students in the classrooms, in the campuses, in our athletic events. So we will have Mr. Ruben Ayala. He will give a presentation as far as what new updates have come up with the S.H.A.C. The next presenter that we're going to have is Hector Gutierrez. He's one of our LCDC drug counselors, and he's going to go over the topics of fentanyl and vaping. As a committee, we want to make sure that we get this information out so we can be proactive as a district. We want to be proactive. You as parents, or if you have children, or anybody who is a part of our school district, we want to be proactive to make sure that if there's anything, you see anything, we know what to look for. At the end of the day, our job is to take care of our kids and to make sure we have a safe learning environment. So we will start first with Mr. Hector Gutierrez. He will be our first presenter. Mr. Ayala is right now meeting with some other members from the school district, but he is here. So we will start off with Mr. Gutierrez. I'm going to be like, be like, time out, sir, time out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning. Right, still morning? Yes, like 16 minutes. My name is Hector Gutierrez, and I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor. I've been a drug counselor for 28 years now. I started working at a residential treatment back in May of 1997. So when I started working at the rehab, one of the best things about it was the exposure to all different types of substances, how it affects you, how it affects the dynamics of the family, you name it. And one of the things that I've seen in these past 5, 6 years is the increase of the vaping and the increase of other issues that come associated with maybe mental health issues. This is why I think it's such a big deal, such a profound thing to do, to educate ourselves, to try to educate as many people as we can about the dangers of vaping. Now the reason I say that is because I can see the transition. I service 13 schools. I have elementaries, I have middle, I have high school, I have the alternative campus, I have JJ, so I'm all over the place. But I also get to see these kids because I've had the same feeder pattern. I'm fortunate enough to have it for about 15 years. I've been working at S.H.A.C. So I'm able to see them from the elementary to middle, and I see the actual transition of you. The ones that do get involved in vaping, you see them get lost real quick. It's really sad. We do our interventions, and this doesn't happen to every single kid, mind you, because some do respond to therapy, some do respond to counseling, some do respond to redirection, some do respond to other services. But we're talking about those other kids that maybe don't respond. And this is why I think it's such a huge deal, if you will. I just left a meeting right now, maybe about a couple hours ago, where we started off with an anti-vaping task force. We've had this since 2022. We started it because it is an epidemic among us. like legit, it is in front of us. They, and I say they, and I mean the students, they're using it to a point where they want to use it right in front of us and us not know that it's happening. They want to pull it right over your face, like it's right here, you don't see it, and too bad. And I'll show you some of the apparatuses, or one of the apparatuses, kind of the newest one, if you will, because before this, there was like a sweater that they sell on Amazon, it was like $100, and it had a hoodie, and on the hoodie, it has those little straps like to be able to close the top part of the hood. But on this one, it has like a straw, so you're hitting the bait, so you can hit the bait while you have your jacket on. Has little holes that's connected all the way through, whatever contraption. This is what we're dealing with, right? There's some that are disguised as keychains. It's just lipsticks, you know, it's out there. And what we have to do, again, is to try to do our best, to try to open our eyes, our mind a little bit, if you will, and try to be able to learn some of this and share it with somebody else. Because a lot of times we get this information, it kind of just stays dormant. And we just use it for ourselves, and I get it, but if we share it to somebody else, somebody who has a teenager, somebody that has a kid in school that, you know what, the kid is kind of quiet, he's always quiet, he's such a good kid, he's always quiet, he's always in his room. Go into his room. See what they're doing for those 6 hours or those 8 hours. Why is the door closed? They're stuck on a tube, they're looking at a TV, but what else are they doing before that they're stuck on there? And again, this stuff doesn't smell all the time. So they could use it and spray a potpourri spray or spray something in the room, and you're not gonna smell it. Before it was different. When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, you'd open the door and you're like, oh yeah, you smell something. It did, like something stood out, and you're like, that's not regular firewood burning there. It's not mesquite. So I think it's really important for us to become active, to become involved, to become engaged with our kids. And what I mean by that is sit down and talk to them. Sit down and talk to them, engage in a conversation to where you're not too busy to look at your phone and say, hold on, mijito, hold on. What were you gonna tell me? What was that happened in school? Like, hold on. No, give them 100%. We're demanding 100% from them. We're expecting the best from them. But what are we giving them? When there comes to conversation, because those moments are few. Someplace I read it said that 75% of the time we spend with our kids is before the age of 18. After that, it's 25%. Because after that, they're gone. It's crazy. So we have to understand that this time that we spend is precious. They're seconds, yes, but keep the phone away. Engage in a conversation where we talk about this topic and we say, you know what, this is the way I feel about it, and this is why I'm so adamant about it. Now I'm going to move on because I know I got only 20 minutes, right? Now, the children now love luxury. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. They no longer rinse or rise when their elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, brag before company, gobble up dainties at the table, and tyrannize their teachers. Does anybody want to take a stab at who said this and in what year? Anybody? A long time ago. Socrates. So we've seen this before. Our kids are going to be testing limits. We understand that. The limits that they test sometimes are very dangerous because, as mentioned before, as I'm meeting with Ms. Perez, it's a gateway drug and it's opening up the doors for many other things. And this is what scares the bejesus out of me because I work residential treatment and I saw 13-year-old heroin addicts. And I'm starting to see kids starting to use pills at 13 and 14, but they started using a vape at 10 and 11. So it opens up that door and it creates it easier for them to want to try to experiment in something that they never would have because now they're jumping out of their comfort zone. Right? The program I work for is EPIC, and I'll be really quick with this. It stands for Education, Prevention, Intervention, and Counseling. How do kids get into the EPIC program? Through an administrator, teacher, counselor, parent, teacher, or self-referral. Most of the time when I do my classroom presentations, I'll do my presentations and then the teacher will call, hey, those 2 or 3 kids, I want to meet with you. Send them over to my office, I'll be here today. So they'll send them over at different times or whatnot, and that's kind of like the way I get kids. I also have kids that'll bring other kids. They're like, hey, this is Mr. Gutierrez. And I have a lot of fidget spinners and stuff in my office, so a lot of my kids really love that. So they'll sit down, they'll play with the fidget spinners, hey, can I have one? And thank God our director is really awesome and they order us some stuff for the kids. So I put out there like, yeah, pick whichever one you want. They're playing with the puppets and they're talking. Just a reason to come by and just see that it's a not judgmental zone, okay? Now, everything that the kids tell me is confidential unless there's something more serious that needs to be addressed, and I contact the parents for that. We do offer the random drug testing with the district with the EPIC program that I work with. Now, for the random drug testing, this is for our kids that are in UIL. These are our UIL kids. This is any UIL sport, activity, whatever, from 7th grade to 12th grade, UISD test their kids. Do all districts? No, but we do. And I think it's very important for us to know that because we hold a higher standard for our kids, one. Two, we want our kids to be the safest ones out there. And if we know that our kids are using drugs and trying to play against these kids from Austin, Westlake that are 6'3", 6'4", and our kids are, 6'1" or 5'8", and it's gonna be really hard to compete, and especially if they have drugs in their system, So we wanted to go ahead and take a good direction, if you will. So all our UISD kids get tested, and our UIL kids get tested. It's random, so they'll show up to a school, and they pick some at a middle school, they pick some at a high school. We don't know until they show up and they do the test. Once they do the test, then we have to meet with a parent, we meet with a teacher, we meet with a student, and we discuss whatever the consequence may be. We do have the situation where a kid can test positive 4 times in a year. And as that happens, they could lose all eligibility to be an athlete for the rest of their academic life. It's crazy. So it's very serious. So if you have any kids participating in UIL, if you're a sponsor, if you're involved with any of that, we need to tell our kids to be very, very careful. Now we have our on-demand testing. This is for our parents. These are awesome. I have a box of these in my office. Ms. Claudia Medellin, the principal secretary at my high school, she has them there. If you go to Gonzalez, Ms. Araceli Garza has them. If you go to Perales, Ms. Arredondo has them. If you go over to South Middle, it's Mr. Valdez. So every school kind of handles it differently, but we all have random drug tests. So if you're a parent from UISD and you want to randomly test your child, you could show up at a school, you could pick up a test, you just fill out a little paper. That's for accountability purposes, you know about accountability. So we got to do our accountability thing, but that is confidential. That is just for us to say, this is where that kid went. And I usually take care of those papers and nobody looks at them.
And is that information shared with everybody?
No, ma'am. This test is private, so you take it home, you can test them inside your restroom at your house. Whatever the results are, you keep it to yourself, and if you would like to involve the LCDC, you can involve us, and we'd like to try to
So we get a lot of calls from parents.
Yes.
And nobody knows who has them. And so we call the school and nobody in that school knows.
I need to know what school you're talking about first. I'm sorry, because I work at South.
Services Director.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so we get a lot of the calls from the parents, and I just hate sending a parent to a call that's not gonna help them.
I could understand
So
that.
that's why I would like to have that information.
Yes, ma'am. No, I completely understand, but you also have to understand that every school runs its school its own way. Every principal wants to run it their own way. So they decide who has a drug test.
With their staff and share.
Yes, ma'am.
We can, address the parents properly.
I think that's a very good idea. I'll take that upon recommendation. Thank you, ma'am. So with this test, you could go ahead and test your child, and it'll give you the results within 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, you have the results, and again, it's confidential because you're doing the test on your own. You cannot ask the school to do it. You can't ask them, can we do it inside the restroom there? No, you gotta take it to your house, you do it at your house, and then if you do want services, I do give you a referral sheet, so that way in case you need to speak to somebody, you can. Now, I'm gonna move quick. This is our ropes course. We're talking about it a little bit earlier. We have a challenge course for low and high elements, and the reason I bring it to you is because it's available to all our district. The one that utilizes it the best is Ms. Ned Perez for the You First program, and I want to tell you that I love what we do with it because it allows ropes to be ropes. We used to do the challenge course. It's called experiential education. I started this in '97 when I first started at the drug rehab. I'm one of the lead facilitators. There's 3 of us that run the course. And we could set up appointments, or you could set up a group. Like on the 16th, I want to say Alexander High School is taking out a group of some of their athletes. So I'm scheduled to be there on that day, and we do team building activities for that day. The best part of this is not just the physical aspect of climbing and jumping from one pole or getting on the zip line. It's a counseling that goes on after that. We sit down and we talk. What were you letting go? I'm gonna give you an example. When I had my kids in rehab, we had the pamper pole. It's 8 feet, you're standing 45 feet up on a pole. You have a harness on, and you have a piece of rope tied to your back, and has 3 clips in the back, and it runs through a pole, and there's a trapeze 8 feet away from you. And you have to jump 8 feet to that trapeze. And if you miss, well, you swing, and you go towards the ground, but you're not gonna hit the ground. When we would have our kids go up there, and we would tell them, when you're gonna go up, you're gonna let go. You're gonna let go of that stuff they used to have. It's very symbolic. It's big. It's very profound. When you do that, that's when change happens. When you do that, that's when growth happens. That is what ropes is. So if you ever get a chance, let us know. Now, I'm gonna move straight into the vaping because I know I should have started with that, but the active inhaling of vapor produced by any kind of e-cigarette or personal vaporizer. They load a liquid up with their choice. It could be nicotine, it could be THC, depending on whatever it is that they desire to use at the time. How do we know what it is? We don't. We don't. So you could see somebody blowing a puff of smoke and you might think, we think it's nicotine and it could be THC. Sometimes you can tell by smell, but some of these have different scents or odors, so it might be difficult to be able to tell what it is. These things have to heat up to about 350, 360 degrees. They use lithium-ion batteries inside of it. And those batteries are like the batteries that I use in my weed eater. Thing's gonna last for an hour and a half. I'm gonna be able to do most of my yard because of that drill, or that battery. So these things last, and they're rechargeable, they're refillable, they're reusable. That's what's scary, is that they have that opportunity to keep using it. Now, we've seen data show us that it's increasing from 8th grade, 10th, and 12th. We're at a point right now where I wanna say, if you look at the current school data, we're at like 20% of seniors. That's 1 in 5 has already tried vapes. Just so you know, this is the current level that we're at. Now, what is it that we're seeing? The vaping, the THC. That's the weed, tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the active ingredient in marijuana. If marijuana didn't have THC, you wouldn't get high when you smoked. We have THC receptors in our body, so your body receives it. That's what makes them feel the euphoria. Okay? Now, the concentrates, this is what we refer to as live resin. Live resin, this is 1 gram of live resin. Live resin is a controlled substance. This is a state jail felony if they're caught with this on campus. And it goes up to a felony 3 being in a school zone. Okay? It's a big deal. But this live resin is very strong. Make no mistake, it's not those days anymore. The THC percentage that's used to be in a regular joint is like 2, 6, 8% THC. These things are at like 90-some% THC. The addictive potential is greater. So that means that even if they try it only a few times, it's enough to get them hooked to want to try something else. That's a scary part of this. Because some parents, no, I found out, I already redirected them. And a lot of times it happens and they pull the wool over your eyes. Let me explain. It's working with a parent. No, my son doesn't do it. And I promise you, I keep an eye on him. I'm like, ma'am, there's times that he's by himself. You're not gonna see him. Well, I live by United South, and I work at United South. So when I finish work, most of the time you're gonna see me at Moreno's because I stop off. I talk to Chewy, my butcher, and I go get my food because I make dinner. But when I get there, I was talking on the phone with my wife. I said, what are you gonna want to get? I don't know, what do you feel like? So we're doing this. I turn, I look, and I see one of my students and his mom pull up in a car, and they can't see me. I'm in my truck, and my truck has dark tint. And his mom leaves, and he pulls out the vape, and he takes a rip. And I'm like, oh, delay. And he goes, I'm like, all right. So he's comfortable. He did it again. I rolled down my window, and I honked. He did this, and he's like, and I'm like, te vi. Just put his head down, left it alone. I saw him at school, and he's like this. And I said, remember that meeting we're having with your parents? And you said, no, sir, it's only when I'm at school. Mentiras. And she believes you, bro. This isn't the meeting that we're having. But this is what we're dealing with. Our kids are going to tell us, I promise you. This is why it's important to drug test our kids. These are the different types of vape pens. The ones you see on the left, those are the disposable. The dispos, they call them fried. There's cookies, there's cakes. We have kids that are advertising. How? He was wearing a cookie sweater at school, and I worked really close with Sergio Garcia, Sergeant, because he was with me at South for many years before they moved him. And anyways, I saw this kid, and we were having, vaping issues at school, just like every other school. And I saw this kid walking with a Cookie Monster jacket, sweater, and he's walking around. I was like, So I went to Sergio and I was like, hey, dude, do me a favor. I said, keep it on this kid, yeah? He's like, yeah, I got you. Sure enough, he was advertising with his sweater, the cookies, because there's cookies. We had another presentation where I was doing it to the teachers at United South, and they're like, Mr. Gutierrez, I had a kid that would always come in and say, what kind of cake do you want, ma'am? You want a strawberry cake? You want a chocolate cake? You want a vanilla cake? You want cookies and cream cake? So you know what he was doing? Advertising every single flavor that he had inside the class. Again, remember, I told you, they want to do it to us right in front of us where we can't see it. And the teacher's like, oh my God. But this is what we learned. If she would not have said that, many of us may not have learned. So we need to be able to pick those things up. Cookies, cakes, those are names. Right now, muhas is also a big thing. They call them muha meds. Those things come with 2 grams. They call them ready. Loaded and exploded is the way I say it. They're ready. They're charged. They'll deliver it to your house. It's really easy. Mr. Leal, who's usually here, he's my tech guy. He had to step out and take a report to Alexander, but he has a way. He showed us that you could just go straight up online and order it. It'll go straight to your house. Sergeant Abrego right now was talking to us, and she was saying that she had tried to order, her son wanted to order a vape, and she said, let me see if you could do it. And sure enough, the kid ordered it and it went to the house. She smashed it and broke it. She kept the box, but she's like, I can't believe my kid did it. He's 16. Well, yeah, it just says click if you're 18, so he just clicked if he was 18. It wasn't that hard to do, right? But this is what our kids have access. And you also give them cash apps, right? And they also receive packages in the mail, right? Y'all always see everything that they get? You gotta think about it. These are the Delta 8s. I'm going kind of quick because I know I got limited time. The Delta 8s, this is the stuff that's sold locally and it's legal in Texas. Texas had Texas Compassionate Use Act, now year 2016, 2017 when they passed it, but nonetheless they allowed 0.3 to be allowed in Texas. So that means any adults, if you're not operating a vehicle, or get tested, you can go purchase a Delta 8 at a local shop here in Laredo. Because when this stuff started coming out, I saw a sign, Delta 8, Delta 8. I was like, what's Delta 8? What's Delta 8? It was my mind, curiosity. So I found it and go ahead, and we all started communicating and networking, and this is what they sell. They sell these here in the shop. You can go buy one of these here in Laredo, Texas. And that's what's scary. Because we have kids that can buy it and sell it to other kids, right? You need to be 21 to be able to buy it though. But we have 21-year-olds that are willing to make a few bucks and say, I'm gonna buy a whole lot of them and then sell them for this amount to somebody younger, correct? Yeah.
It's 0.3% of THC.
0.3% of THC.
Right.
Yes, because it's 0.3 below and then 0.4 above. Yes, ma'am. Now this is a Delta 8, Delta 9. That's just the way it looks like on the molecular level, just in case some of my science people are here. Woo-hoo. Not that I was really good at it, but. Anyways, this is a vape nicotine. The nicotine vapes are huge. And I'm going to tell you something that I learned. I learned this from Melissa Mendoza, or other LCDC. There was a lot of research that we do during the summer. Like, hey, did you see this? Did you read this? And check out this article, and this is pretty good. So we kind of bounce stuff back and forth. Nicotine affects learning because it rewires the brain. And I really wasn't really, I guess I understood it, but I didn't really want to try to apply it then. I took it a step further. Excuse me, I asked my wife, I was like, hey, because my wife's a smarty pants, right? And all her friends were the brainiacs, so that's cool. I respect that completely. They're my friends too. And I asked her, babe, did any of your friends smoke? No. I was like, you're right. Top 10. None of them smoked. And plus I hung around with other people, I'm not gonna say who. And well, some of us smoked, and well, we weren't top 10%, right? I just did like one of those little analysis, but it gave me perspective. So when I started working with the kids and I started seeing that some of our kids were struggling, I started asking them, hey, how are your grades? So I always put like 4 to 5, which means you're passing 4 out of the 5 classes, or 6 out of 7. Like, I'll kind of try to just do a little math on that, just so they can see it. And a lot of my kids that are failing their classes are using the nicotine vape. And I try to let them understand and do a little science with them and let them know, we need to pull that away from you because it's rewiring, it's changing who you are, and your ability to be able to process information isn't the same. So when you try to read something and remember it, you're not. When you try to do that memory recall that most of us have to do, it's not going to function. And there was a big settlement done on Juul, maybe about a couple $2 billion, because they were found in advertising to children or to teenagers. They're the future customers. The big thing to remember is that when we look at vaping, a lot of times people think, well, I smoke less. If you look at a cigarette, every cigarette has 1 milligram of nicotine inside it. Every cigarette, 1 milligram nicotine, 1. So in a pack of 20 milligrams of nicotine. But if you look at the Juul pod and somebody says, man, I smoked the Juul pod and I'm not smoking any more cigarettes, but you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes worth of nicotine because it's 41 milligrams inside that. They try to downplay it because they're smoking and the idea is that it doesn't smell as bad. And let's be honest, when people smoke cigarettes, it's annoying now because we're not used to it anymore. Or they smoke a puro. I mean, I got my compadre who doesn't smoke puros, and he'll be by us like, man, you know, it smells like puro. But other people are like, I really don't like that smell. But if somebody's vaping, they have no problem with it because they'll be standing by there. Now, there's over 15,500 different flavors that exist. 15,500 different flavors. And of course, I want you to know they're not targeting the adults, they're targeting the kids. That's why they have the different flavors that they do. This is the audience. And this was a settlement that I told you. It was a $300 million class action lawsuit that was filed against Juul. Excuse me. The vapes with flavor, that's why they sell them in the box. So you go to a shop, and I'm going to tell you the truth. Stop off at a Vape City store. You have to stop off and get out of your comfort zone, get out of your car, go inside the shop and see. If you're one of those that's interested in seeing and trying to learn, look at what's in there. Because that way you're going to be able to recognize certain things. Because if not, it changes every day. Like technology and everything changes, so does that. So we're not on the cutting edge of it, we're behind. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about fentanyl. Now, there's 2 types of fentanyl. And I'm going to tell you, we started combining this presentation because we've had cases now where fentanyl's crossing every line of drugs. And I mean with cocaine, now with marijuana. We had people that are smoking laced weed, but it has fentanyl inside of it. They're putting fentanyl inside of it. Back in the day when they would smoke things, they called it a primo. They would use marijuana on the inside and they'd roll it and they put cocaine on the outside. It's called a primo, that's where the kids would smoke it. So they're freebasing marijuana and they're smoking cocaine at the same time. Yeah. Fentanyl has crossed that line. And it's dangerous, it's deadly. There's 2 types, pharmaceutical fentanyl and illegal fentanyl. It's a synthetic opioid prescribed by doctors for treating severe pain associated with surgery, advanced cancer, and serious injuries. Now this thing is 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. Morphine was the stuff that they would use back in the day in, say, the Vietnam War. Somebody got shot there on the battlefield, the medic would run out, he'd pull out his pack, he would stab him in the leg with his shot, and that was morphine. It was enough to try to numb the leg, to try to ease the pain. From a gunshot wound. And this thing is 50 to 100 times stronger than that. And this is what our kids are coming across, and this is where it's dangerous, because I've read of cases, I've seen, research cases where you find out, my daughter and her best friend were having a sleepover. And it was about 12:30 at night, the dad walks in to go, hey, the both of them are passed out on the floor, one of them's gurgling, the other one's eyes are rolling behind their head, has to call 911, one of them dies along the way. This is the stuff we have to be careful with, because this is how fentanyl, this is happening like the way Rohypnol happened back in the day. When that day rape drug was out, now I attribute it to the fact of vaping opening that door, allowing fentanyl to come in so easily. Because people are searching for that higher high now. People can develop tolerance and they can become addicted. Illegal fentanyl is a white powder often mixed with heroin, other drugs such as cocaine and pills, and it could lead to an accidental overdose. Fentanyl abuse can easily lead to accidental overdose because it is powerful in small amounts, and I mean really small amounts. A lethal dose of fentanyl is about 2 milligrams, equal to about 10 to 15 grains of salt. 15 grains of salt. People make illegal fentanyl in the labs, and we've had laboratories here locally where they rate it and they're making fentanyl. We've had friends that work in law enforcement say, man, we hit a bust and they had about 20,000 pills of fentanyl. 20,000 pills. Fentanyl running through our city. That scared me. Many people have died from a single dose of heroin they did not know contained a lethal dose of fentanyl. This is what would be most lethal for most of us. Right here, those little grains of salt that you see. Now it's even to the point where when I was doing my presentation, because I do presentations for the bus drivers also in transportation, they're telling them to use 2 gloves when they're searching the bus. Because I'm going to tell you, I work at STEP, and there's some times where we're loading up kids, and hey, there's something on the bus. We pull out the kids, we separate them, and hey, we got to go search the buses. Yeah, let's go. I was looking under the seats, and now they're like, hey, ponte guantes. You got to put on gloves. You got to put on 2 gloves. You're sticking your hand in there. You touch it. Your skin absorbs it. You're going to pass out. You could die there. That's how dangerous this stuff is. So we have to be careful if we want to try to manipulate something, grab it, hold it. We have to be very careful and think about that twice. Fentanyl powder is also pressed into counterfeit pills to make them to resemble prescription pills, such as oxycodone and hydrocodone. These illegal pills can come in different colors, most likely blue, round, and stamped with an M on one side and 30 on the other. People may not know a counterfeit pill contains a lethal dose of fentanyl. Now I'm going to move up. Thank you. I'm going to move up and I'm going to show you the counterfeit pills. Tell me if you can notice the difference. Probably not. We look at those pills and they look pretty much the same. I don't know. Does anybody notice the difference? They have the score on there that has the same number. This is what's scary. A lot of our kids getting their hands on something that could take their life. And I think this is where we have to engage in that conversation to when we speak to our kids and be, as they say, be real with them and say, this is what I expect, this is what I'm concerned with, this is why I'm worried with you. And I'm gonna tell you, my mom did it in a very smooth way. Growing up, I mean, I was the last of 6, I'm the runt of the litter, any way you wanna look at it. And you know, I played sports all my life since I was a kid. I may be a big boy, but I was always getting dirty. And came baseball season, and there's Hector chewing tobacco, and my mom's a nurse. My mother's a registered nurse. My mother was a nurse in the 50s. She went to Our Lady of the Lake University, so, you know, Mama was, ¿qué tienes? ¿Qué es lo que estás pensando? You know, she engaged in that conversation, and I'll kind of sideswipe it, but she was real good, so in the mirror, she would put articles, gum cancer attributed to chewing tobacco. She was very subtle in the ways that she did it. She put it right there on the refrigerator door where she knew that I'd be going to get a snack. Or she'd put it in front of the mirror when she knew in the morning I was going to comb my hair and brush my teeth. But this is the kind of conversations we have to have with our kids because it has to be real in order for them to be able to learn from it. It's too risky for it not to be. Because we're not going to be able to rewind the clock if something does happen. So we want to engage it, and we want to try to spread the word to others to engage it. Because obviously the people that I'm speaking to here, I love that you're here, but it's others that have to hear the message. Because I know that you're going to get it, you're going to use it, but somebody else has to be able to pass it so that way we can utilize this information to save more lives. Fentanyl, according to the DEA, 150 people have died each day from synthetic opioids like fentanyl. It averages to about 55,000 people annually. Today, illegal fentanyl is involved in 64% of opioid deaths. I want to say here in Laredo, are we at 60? Somebody told me maybe 60. I don't know if you're up to date with the fentanyl overdoses. And I want to tell you that our schools, our middle schools, sorry.
34.
Oh, that was 2023 though. But at our middle schools, at our high schools, on our buses, we have Narcan and Naloxone. That way it's available to them for it. And I'm going to tell you, I have a couple of buddies that work RQs, that work on the units, and they say, we have to give it to 4 times. The kids aren't waking up. And that's from these pills. That's from these pills. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Coach?
Yeah, Nick, I have a question. When you present this to the students here at United South, or any high school student, what kind of response are you getting from those kids? Are they taking this serious?
It's mixed, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's mixed emotions, because you have the ones, because I'm really, you know me, you see my presentation, so when I get into the kids, I get real with them. So I'll tell them, if you have a best friend that's using, if you have somebody that likes to drink or likes to take pills on their own, and you know that they do, but they kind of try to play it off, and I'll do that kind of routine, so you'll see people turn and look at their buddy like, hey, that's you. I try to do that, because I feel that it's more impactful for them to hear it from one of their peers as opposed to hearing it from me. Because me, I'm just telling you, hey, I'm an adult telling you not to do it because that's my job. But when they hear from a friend, say, hey, dude, he said that if you keep using this on a regular basis, he said this, because ultimately, before the end of the presentation, I challenged him. I said, if you say that you're not addicted, and you know your friend uses, I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna challenge you to not use for 365 days. For 1 year, you may not use, but you have your buddies that are gonna hold you honest. And if you use within 1 day of those 365 days, then you need to talk to me, because then we have a substance use issue. And their friends are like, and I said, do me a favor, challenge your buddies that say that they have no problem. And they're turning, they're looking at each other, and they're looking down. So I kind of use that approach. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I realize that the best way to attack this is education and preventative measures, but what other measures do they have when these things are happening at schools or?
So we have resources that we reach out to. So say that they need residential treatment, say he needs other kind of counseling, we try to set up outpatient counseling if we need to do that. We have an LPC on campus, so that way in case there is some mental health issues, I make a direct referral to our LPC. We have an LPC at every high school, so most of us have a very good working relationship with them, so we try to refer to them so that way the help continues. We don't want it just to, oh, you have that problem, okay, good deal. No, we want them to be able to receive the service that they need, whether it's outpatient, whether it's at school, because we even have counselors from S.H.A.C that'll come visit us. We're really blessed with them because they do their outpatient work. I know S.H.A.C from the residential treatment. As a matter of fact, I had a case this past week where I had a kid that was, I need rehab, and well, I know S.H.A.C, so I called her straight on the phone, said, "Okay, do I have a bed available?" So I think the resource that we have and the connection that we have with our local area is really strong, but that's what we try to do. I don't know that answered your question.
Do you have naloxone kits?
Yes, ma'am. Every high school has them, every middle school has them, our buses have them. I want to say, Ruben, I'm sure you could answer that from
Even
you.
the elementary, because I'm the one that provides it to all the school, every single campus.
Okay,
But the main ones are the high schools that I sent.
Are teachers educated on how to use them, or are there certain people that know how to use them?
Yes, I know.
It depends on the campus. We'll have administrators trained as well as some teachers, of course the nurse, and usually coaches as well. And so we actually just got audited recently, and that's part of what they were checking was how many naloxone or Narcans we had and where they were located. So not only do they want to see that you have it, but that it's not in just one centralized location, that they're spread out, and that's how we have them at our campuses in multiple locations so that they're easier to access. So it's not, what we don't want is an incident happening on one end of campus and I have to run all the way to the other end of campus just so I can get this. So we have them spread out, and so yes, that is something, and our nurses do provide that to our campuses.
On my wish list is for every single teacher to have one available or two.
Well, that's
So
what I
I'm
was gonna
trying
say.
to do that.
The state of Utah, I know the state of Utah made out like a class that anyone could join through like physically or online, and they were sent, the kids. So I'm wondering if like the state of Texas has something like that, we just don't know about it, and that's something good to educate teachers and parents about, so that maybe.
So actually, the one I have in my office, I was at the fire department, and as I was walking out, they have them right there. And I asked, can we get, go ahead, take a minute.
That's what I was gonna ask, like, are they?
They're free
Available
and
for
available.
everybody? So parents, if they know that their child could potentially be using and have one at home, or ask them
Yes.
for a doctor,
Yes, you go to any fire department and
No, they have them at the administrative building.
they,
618?
Yes.
618 East Delmar Boulevard.
I'm just like that.
You can pick them up there, yes.
I was asking, is there anybody from,
Free.
is there anybody from SCAD here?
scan.
No, okay, we are here from the health department, I'm Isabella Morales, the harm reduction specialist
future to have their Narcan and a presentation that goes along with it. SCAN does it, the health department does it, the community service and resources are out there for any school to contact us. And also we provide the information that we have cabinets around the community. You find one in Rooney Library, you want to find in El Eden, Pascan Rec Center, Figueroa Rec Center. There's cabinets that are full or filled with Narcan, and anybody in the community can go in there, open the cabinet, grab as many Narcans as they want. We refill weekly, so Narcan naloxone is always available in the community. Now, my work is to make sure that the community knows that we are out there. I'm part of the Drug and Alcohol Commission, so we do go around and we're trying to be involved in all the health fairs, and we're out there in any community event that you can think of. We have promotion specialists that also provide the information at any events such as kite festivals or anything that the community is involved and that we're allowed to put up a table. You'll find us there as well.
Awesome. And so it's all of those community resources, and so it's something that we are, through recommendations through our DV that we just recently had, we are looking at other solutions, and we'll be meeting not only for that, but stop bleeding as well, so that's another thing that they do check. So those are critical life-saving tools that we need to have more accessible to and training. So, that being said, here I am.
Yeah,
So
Ruben Ayala, yes.
so I'll introduce myself. Ruben Ayala, I am the Safety Questions Response Administrator for UISD. Here to talk a little bit about safety. There's a couple of new things, and there's something that I do want to make sure that I do touch on. So the first part is just kind of so you can have an idea of how we have a layered approach to all of our safety and all of the different things that are state mandated that we are in either compliance or we are above compliance. And so I'm not going to go through all of them, but just so you can have an idea. This is we start from the fences on the outside, all the way to the doors inside, and visitor management, everything else in between. The one thing I did want to really cover today was our standard response protocols. So just to give you a little bit of background, standard response protocols are what we use in any incident as a reaction, right? So as a response, and these are were developed by a mother and father. Okay, so this is the I Love You Guys Foundation. And this foundation was founded and started because I believe it was Colorado. They had an active shooter event, which turned into a hostage event. Which their daughter was in the room with the shooter. And as police approached and entered, he took her life and then took his own. And so because of that, they've dedicated the rest of their lives to this foundation. So all of their materials are free. You can access their videos. They have, and these protocols, their idea was, we don't have a standard way of talking about safety and what we're going to do when there's incidents happening. So from the law enforcement side to the campus side to the teacher to the students to everybody knowing when I say secure, this is what it means. So one thing that I try to do whenever I have these opportunities is show parents as well, because you all get the message that says secure, hold, whatever it is, and well, why are you calling that and what is going on? And so this is what we're trying to do, and we're trying to promote it more. It's on our website, but you know, you've got to search for it, and it's a whole bunch of other stuff. So what I'm going to show you real quick is the video that if you have a high school or middle school student, they should have seen. It's a quick video.
Schools and organizations in your jurisdiction are using the Standard Response Protocol. The Standard Response Protocol, or SRP, is an all-hazards institutional response to anything that can happen at school. It offers a shared vocabulary and expectation of behavior for everyone involved: first responders, school staff, students, and parents. The SRP is comprised of 5 actions: hold, secure, lock down, evacuate, and shelter. These actions can be used as a response to any given situation. Each action is always followed by a directive, and every action has very specific instructions for school staff and students to follow. Hold. Hold in your room or area. Clear the halls. Hold is used when the hallways need to be kept clear of people. Why? Maybe a cleanup, medical emergency, or an altercation. The main idea is to not allow what's going on in the hallway to spill into the classroom, or the classroom's occupants to spill into the hallway.
Go ahead, 104.
We have a medical emergency in the cafeteria. I'm placing the school on hold. Can we get an ambulance to the south door C3?
Copy. Ambulance to South Door. School is on hold.
Secure, get inside, lock outside doors. Secure is used when there is a threat or hazard outside of, but in proximity to the school. Whether it is due to criminal activity, violence, or a fire event in the immediate neighborhood, or even a dangerous animal on the playground, Secure uses the security of the physical facility to act as protection. But inside the building, it is business as usual.
Dispatch, Robert 104.
Go ahead.
We have a warrant service at 10th and Sage. Be advised and notify the school to enter the secure protocol.
Copy.
Lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. Lockdown is used when there's a threat or hazard on the inside of the building. Could be an unauthorized person, a report of a weapon, or something worse. Maybe an armed intruder or some other imminent threat. The lockdown protocol secures individual rooms and keeps students and school staff in place, allowing law enforcement to immediately respond to the threat. Locked doors serve as time barriers and have been proven to be effective against armed assailants. But this does not mean students and school staff are not also trained in self-evacuation. Evacuate. Evacuate may be followed by specific locations, such as evacuate to the gym. Evacuate is used to move students and school staff from one location to a different location in an orderly fashion. An on-site evacuation is conducted usually because of a mechanical failure that would disrupt the school day, such as a power outage. If it cannot be resolved quickly, the school may conduct an early dismissal. An off-site evacuation may be necessary when it's no longer safe to stay in the building, such as a gas leak or bomb threat. If there has been a violent event at the school, an off-site evacuation will almost always be necessary, as the school will likely be deemed a crime scene. An off-site evacuation may require the assistance of law enforcement as well. Shelter. Shelter is used when specific protective actions are needed based on a threat or hazard. Shelter is followed by identifying the hazard or threat and the safety strategy to be used. For example, tornado, get to the storm shelter. The 5 actions of the standard response protocol, hold, secure, lock down, evacuate, and shelter, provide consistent, clear, shared language and actions between all school staff, students, and first responders. The standard response protocol acknowledges that some school incidents will involve a tactical response from law enforcement and suggests schools consult with local law enforcement regarding expectations and actions. It is also suggested that joint training with law enforcement and school staff occurs routinely in order to solidify the understanding of what to expect from all those involved. Hold, secure, lock down, evacuate, and shelter. The 5 actions of the standard response protocol. More information on the standard response protocol can be found at iloveyoguys.org.
When they're in the secure mode,
Yes.
ambulances are not allowed to come in?
Yes, they are.
Okay, because it has happened in several occasions that the nurses have called and nobody can open them.
So the law enforcement will go and usually close up the gate initially, secure, and then, so, how can I put this? A lot of it's gonna be situational, right? So, I'll review a little bit, and I'll start from the bottom and we'll go into the secure. That's one of the ones that we had most recently. So a hold. So generally a hold is, I don't want anybody in the hallways, right? So it could be multiple things. It could be that there's a fight going out in the hallways, we're about to release, and we don't want students going out there to get involved. And so we'll call a hold, and that just means stay in your classroom. Our doors are always locked, sorry, our classroom doors are locked. And so you just stay in classroom, stay working, doing what you're doing. We just don't want you outside. If you're in the hallway, you need to get to your classroom. We just want to clear it out. It could be an animal. We've had dogs come into the campus, somebody lets them in, and we just want to put them on hold. It could be a disgruntled parent, a parent that's very upset, irate, yelling and screaming, and we just don't want the students to be witness to that and to see that. It might be somebody's parent, and we don't want that, other stigma to go with it. So we just say, we're going to go on hold, and everybody stays in their classrooms. So generally speaking, if you see that they went into a hold, that's what it's going to be. Secure. So now in a secure This is generally that there's something happening outside. So the reason why we're not gonna let anything in initially is because we've generally been notified, and this will generally happen through law enforcement, an outside agency, notifying us, our police officers, that there's something happening in the area. It could be that they are serving a warrant, that's happened. It could be that they're burglary 2 blocks away and they're running away from the house. And so they could be close to one of our campuses, so that we'll go into secure. It could be multiple things, but the idea is that it's not within our campus, it's outside. So we were going to use our physical structure, whether it be our fence and our doors, to keep it out. We're going to be highly vigilant. Movement inside the campus stays the same, right? We just don't let anybody transition from building to building, right? We do ask if we have athletes outside or if we have recess, they come in. So we don't want students outside, because if it does bleed in, we don't want anybody on the outside of the building. We're going to use our building to protect us. And so there's multiple reasons why we've called it. And so there was an incident recently, and we called it secure out of an abundance of caution. And so also know this, that oftentimes we may know information, but in these instances specifically, they're generally going to be law enforcement situations. So we're not allowed to share maybe some of the details of it. It's an active investigation. They're not going to let us know because it's law enforcement, and they have to protect, you know, their investigation. Or they don't want to share it because they might tip off somebody to something that they don't want them to know about, right? So a lot of times we won't say too much about a secure initially, okay? But know that if it says secure, that means it's off of our campus. It's not inside of our fence line, it's not inside of our building, generally speaking. Lockdown. So now lockdown is something that's usually a little more serious. That's something happening inside the campus, and we want everybody to be in a secured position. So lights, locks out of sight. We've changed to a new protocol where we have all of our interior doors locked during instructional time, closed and locked, and so we do weekly audits of those as well to make sure that they are compliant. And people forget sometimes, and if it's unlocked, we lock it up for them. So locks, that should already be done. Lights, they'll turn off the lights, and then out of sight means wherever the window is on your door, you're going to get as far away so that you can't see out and they can't see you inside. That's the idea behind it. Other than that, that's locks, lights out of sight for everybody. I have the most difficult time with administrators. Administrator in the room. Because administrators, when they drill, they're the ones running it. So they're the ones checking that everybody's locks, lights are outside. They're the ones checking the doors. They're out there. But in reality, they're supposed to be barricading themselves as well. They're supposed to be being in the lockdown as well. It's law enforcement that takes over at this point. Our campus has law enforcement. Every campus has a law enforcement officer. We have a USDPD. And so that officer is the one now in charge. He's incident command, and he's the one who's going to continue that investigation until other resources arrive if necessary. So that's a lockdown. Evacuate could be for a myriad of things. It could be because we did have a lockdown and now we need to evacuate to reunify at an off-site. That's the most extreme one. It could be because the lights went out and we need to get everybody home. It could be that there was an incident and we need to send everybody home early, weather, whatever it may be. That's why we would evacuate. And of course, the most common one, fire, or our fire drills. So every time we do a fire drill, it includes an evacuate. Shelter. So this is for anything hazardous. It could be for hazardous materials or it could be for weather. So different protocols for each. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't know. Part of my job also is I'm the weatherman. So I check the weather regularly. And so if there's any incidents of, I get notified from Corpus and from Brownsville of any incoming weather. And so then we base our decisions on what information we have, on whether we're going to do a school closure or not. So a lot of times when it's a bad weather situation, we're generally already closed. Right? We're not even going to take a chance with that. I have a link here, just wanted to kind of show you real quick for parents specifically. This is Texas School Safety Center. It's a parent guide to school safety toolkit. So it's got a whole bunch of information in there. It's a great resource if you want to go into there. It's not going to be specific necessarily to our district, but it's going to be specific to what are the state requirements which we are in compliance with. And we, of course, conduct drills. Now, remember all of these, remember the colors, because as I go on to the next part of the presentation, that's going to come up again. Another thing that I just want to briefly touch on is something that we've invested quite a bit in is our weapons detectors. So through grant money, we're able to purchase these. We have them at every high school, middle school. We use them here at the Kruger Field. We use them here at the S.H.A.C, the auditorium for events. And we've just ordered for elementary schools. For elementary schools, it may not be for your daily entry for adults. We have metal detectors for that. But it's going to be for when we have larger events. Where we're trying to get a lot of people into an elementary school. They're portable. They weigh about 25 pounds, easily set up. It takes about a minute to set them up. You put the battery in, you flip a switch, and they're good to go. And they specifically will be looking for weapons, so it's not metal. So I can walk in there right now. I've got phone, keys, rings, belt, all of this. It won't go off because it's not a gun, right? So that's specifically looking for a weapon. So this is the one that I know is of interest to everybody, and this will tie back into our standard response protocols. So this is a new system that we started this summer. It's called Strategic, it's Crisis Alert. It's a crisis alert button. So you see that card. So I'm hoping every staff member here, if I asked you, you have it. You should be wearing it on your, so it's a card, right? Very good, awesome. So for those of you who are not with the district, every staff member in the entire district was given one of these. You're talking from an administrative position, a teacher, substitutes receive them on a daily basis, our bus drivers, our custodians, our cafeteria workers, our facilities, everybody in the district got a card, okay? So the beauty of this is that it doesn't matter where I am. So I was issued this card through central office. If I press it right now, it'll work here. If I go to LBJ, it'll work there. If I go to United, it'll work there. So what it does is it's, depending on how many presses I do, right, I'm gonna be able to ask for a response. So there's two types of alerts that I can do. The first alert is I need help, a simple call for alert. And generally this is gonna be for, it's gonna be for a medical emergency or a fight. Those are the two most commonly used reasons, right? The other one would be elopement. So how many of you know what elopement means? Very good. So elopement was one of my new terms because I worked middle school, I worked high school, I never worked elementary, and I heard about a runner. I didn't really think it existed until I got these cards. It's a thing. They're fast. So we have these cards. That's one alert. Now then the extreme would be from the card, you can also put the entire campus into a lockdown or building because it's in our facilities. So it's here, it's at the S.H.A.C, it's at Curtin Construction, it's at every single one of our buildings that's owned by this district. We have this set up there. So it's a one-button activation, immediate notification. The notification, it's total facility coverage, so from the fence line. So as soon as you drive into our campus, if you're a teacher and you're driving in and you see somebody with a weapon getting off their car, I can put the whole school in a lockdown from the parking lot, from the fence line, essentially. Technically a little bit outside, but we're not going to take that chance, right? As soon as you're inside, you can see it for sure inside. Total facility coverage, location accuracy, and audio-visual notifications. So what does that mean? So I have the entire district, all right? So any alert that goes off, so this is how many we've had today. Right? This is how many, those are the ones, those top ones. So that's just today, right? Those are different alerts that have gone off, no lockdowns. So staff alerts, what I'll get on my phone, or if I'm on my computer and I have it on, is this. So it'll not only tell me who pressed the button, but it'll also tell me exactly where they're located. right? And the way it tells me is because, I don't know if you see that little square over there? See that little square over there? Right? So it picks up whichever one I'm closest to, right? It'll do some other stuff too. So if I go into lockdown, this is only for lockdown, those little squares would start flashing red. So that's my visual cue. Auditory cue, if we have the PA system, we're able to integrate it. The PA system will give you an automated message. Anybody who's logged into a district computer with a district login will get a notification of a lockdown on their screen, or IFP, which is an interactive flat panel. So all the teachers now have flat panels. If a teacher's working on her flat panel, it'll take over her screen and it'll say lockdown and give them instructions.
Not only if they're active, right?
If they're active.
Like
If they're asleep, it won't work.
If the computer's asleep, if the computer's
It's-
asleep,
it won't work.
we had that conversation.
Yeah. So they have to be logged in and has to be active.
Does that apply to students?
Students, no. So it doesn't work on Chromebooks, it has to work on a PC. Yeah.
So when we're in the gym, coaches, we're hardly ever in our office, we don't have a flat panel.
Some do. I walked in the other day and some have
We
it.
have a flat panel, but we don't.
Turn it on.
It's not on.
Yeah, so you'll have the PA and you'll have the lights.
Yeah, the lights.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So, and so a lot of this is just redundancy. So technically, in the past, we had nothing, right? The only way this would work is if something happened and somebody found a way to tell somebody else, whether through radio, through phone, or whatever it was, or you saw it, then you'd have to run to an office, pick up a phone, press a long complicated code, and then you could say lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. So now it's, I get this and I press, and it's gonna activate something. And so we're gonna have the message out there already. And then of course, it'll notify the site responders. And so as a site responder, you're gonna automatically, if you pick it up, you're calling it out on the radio, letting everybody know. And if anything hasn't been activated, then you would take over and do the manual version of it, which would be PA system.
I know you already told us that.
Yes.
So here, if I'm here, they're gonna get, like.
The responders for here will get it.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I.
Yes. If I'm at your office,
Then
you'll get it, even if you're here.
Oh.
But I go to your office right now, I leave, I say bye. I go to your office, I press the button, you're here, you'll get notified here. So we actually, we're doing some testing, and there's a teacher, there's an assistant principal who calls the principal. She's like, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, what's going on? She's like, well, I'm in ComCam, and I just got a message that it went off. I was at another training, and they didn't pay attention, right? So we're in training though, and they kept on pressing. And so then their director, who was in Germany, calls and says, hey, what's going on? I just got an alert on my phone. So you'll get it anywhere, okay? So all of that happens. This is just a little bit of numbers, a report that I was able to get from the company up until October 25th. It has been used, the 3Press, which is the I need help, 276 times already. And so this, you see a little bit of what they've been called for. So behavior, elopement, medical, physical altercation, and suspicious behavior. So we actually had a bus driver one time here at a game waiting by their bus. Some students were misbehaving inside the field, and they ran off and took off, and then they were trying to get into the bus. At the back of the field house, where nobody's at, in the dark, she saw him, pressed the button. Within a minute, we had law enforcement already addressing the issue. At the same time, we had another incident, also here, and these are just kind of the odd ones, right? So someone here, he was a groundskeeper, and he was taking some water. So he got the jug, threw it on his shoulder, and he was walking, and he's walking, and all of a sudden a bunch of police officers showed up, and they're like, hey, are you okay? And they're like, what happened? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. So, he felt bad, but that's not counting any of these. So those are accidental presses. This 276 is not counting any of the accidental presses. These are actual, I needed help, and it came to me, okay? The one that kind of took me by surprise was the number of medical. So 63 in 6 months? like 10 a month. So, and we dealt with it as a district before. We figured it out somehow. We managed, right? But so now it's just that much faster, that much easier to call for help and get somebody to come and help you. So, and I think this is what Bobby Cruz wanted me to kind of talk on was, well, how effective has it been? How much has it been used? And are we really getting the benefits out of it? So this was a report that I thought, you know what, that's the one. Just real quick, I'm almost done. Threats and how they're reported. So I know that's a big concern. That's a big issue that's going on right now, especially at the beginning of the year. Let's calm down. I shouldn't say that. But thank you. That's everybody knowing. It's something that we're always conscious of, right? Something that we're always trying to be prepared for as much as we possibly can, and something that unfortunately we're seeing too much of, right? But we have our product protocols and things that we have in place that we do, and that this just want to let you know kind of how we handle them. So if any report comes in of any kind of threat, could be social media, it could be the writing on the restroom, it could be a student reporting it, say, hey, this kid said this in class. Anything that seems like it's a threat, we're going to do a full investigation. Doesn't matter if we pull the kid in and say, I'm just joking, I wasn't, or even if the student says, he said this, but then he said he was joking. Yeah, it's not a real big deal, right? No, we're gonna investigate. And which will involve the administrator and the campus police officer automatically. They'll notify me. And then they'll do their investigation. So they'll start interviewing students, they'll start, if they need to get video, whatever it is that they need to do that investigation. Generally speaking as well, is that we'll have a law enforcement officer or USDPD visit the parents at their home and do a home threat assessment to see if the student actually does have any access to weapons, and see if the student, and just also just talk to the parents and let them know, and let them be aware that this is what the student said, and so that we take it very seriously. If necessary, all right, we have reached out, we do have contacts with other law enforcement agencies. We work very closely with Laredo Police Department. They have my cell phone, I have their cell phone. If there's something, we call each other. All right, we're investigating this, we're looking for this, we have our analysts are on it, as well as the FBI. He'll answer my phone call and he's, you need some resources, this is how the nexus, and so we get involved, and if necessary, they can get involved. And so we've had them involved, because we want to make sure that the information we send to you is the truth, right? And I've said this before, the last thing I ever want to send out to a parent is a lie, right? And this first time I do that, that's gonna lose all of our credibility with our parents and with our community, and that's the last thing we want to happen, right? So we're gonna make sure that we're gonna send you out the correct information. If ever we feel like there's imminent danger, then we'll be in a lockdown, we'll know we're in a lockdown. That's gonna be right away. Otherwise, we're gonna investigate because we want to give you the right information. We don't need you to worry or stress if we know that it's not a real threat at this time, right? And things change, right? So then the investigation, you never know what's gonna happen. So we're gonna try to keep you updated as much as we possibly can. The way we do notify is through Parent Square, so if you haven't registered, you don't have the app, it's very important to have that app. It'll help, not necessary, but it'll help. And the most important thing though is make sure that your contact information on Skyward now is up to date. That is paramount. Parents need to have that information updated. And then we also have our Safe and Supportive Schools program. That program will then monitor the student that made that threat and make a determination whether there needs to be more monitoring or if not, okay? And of course, depending on what the threat is or depending on what the situation is, any one of those protocols will be called. Just wanted to say one last thing. Now, what I was saying with the card was that you have two options, right? You can either go lockdown or I need help. But, so I have all the campuses here, I pick a campus. I can call any one of those protocols from my cell phone. So right now, if I wanted to, I could go put LBJ into a security from here, from my phone, the lights will turn blue, the lights will match, the announcement will come out, the screens will come out, just from here. So everything still works, right? It's just not off the button, but everything still works for all of these protocols off of the program.
Are you the only one with access to that?
Every campus administrator, every site administrator has access to that. So to their own, yeah. I'm the only one that has the whole district, but they'll have their own location. Yeah. So right from, and it can be from anywhere. So I can get a call from PD, says they're on their way to LBJ right now. There's a guy with locked up. Well, I don't even have to call anybody. I don't have to. I'll put the school in locked up, and then I'll let everybody start knowing about it. So I don't know why I say LBJ all the time. I used to live there. Any questions? I know I've kind of run over your time and all of that.
I missed the training for that app. How do I get that?
It was.
That was there in my
Come
office.
come to my office. It's like 5 minutes. Yeah. It's really, really quick. Any questions? Yes?
The apps are on the site admin, right?
Site admins. You should be. Yes, yes. It's a little impressive. So, and so all of that they can also do from their desktops. So the desktop is a little bit scary though, because there's less steps. It's more immediate.
How often are teachers and administrators educated on these things?
So this is something new for the district, so it was trained at the very beginning of the year. And then we're gonna have a retrain probably when we come back. And so what I'm stressing to the campuses right now is that as we're getting it, since it's new, there's different things that are coming up. So the accidental presses. And so the accidental presses oftentimes was, and nothing against purses, just not good for the cards. So after school, put it in my card, and then I put it in the bag, something goes on top of it, and then it keeps it pressed and then it causes an alert. And so that's what's happened in the past.
But would it pick it up if they're already left, if they're at home? No, right?
So it won't put the school, right? It won't put the school into an alert, but, and I just found this out. So it actually has a very, very good range, and it'll let you know, but it just won't be able to give you a precise location, because it's not. So I'll actually get an email. So for example, I just talked to an employee yesterday because I got an email that said, this person has pressed the button, but we can't get their location. Their last known location was this campus. Can you please check on them to make sure they're okay? And she's like, I'm so sorry, I must have put it in my purse.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I thought I can't.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is that type of technology, but just blown up to a whole district and anywhere you go. Yes?
So like, for instance, like a teacher that does not have site admin, teachers need to have an app.
So no. So the teacher,
How do they know they're in the restroom, there's a lockdown, they all need to have their phone.
there's the lecture in there too.
In the restroom.
Yeah.
Be very aware of your.
Yes. Yeah, so we know that every restroom has the lights on and it was installed in all of them. The sad part was that we have vape devices. Some campuses and students thought they were vape devices, vape detectors. I was like, no, these are to help you. Well, a lot of administrators actually did. But, no, but that's why they started to mess with them, because they thought they were vape detectors. And so no, these are to help you, not to catch you. But so yes, and that was, to me, that was one of the beauties of the system. That all the other programs, platforms that are out there required a lot from the teacher. How many do I need to do press? Some had multiple buttons, multiple presses per how many buttons, and then, or you had to get your phone, had to have the app, had to have Wi-Fi, or it had to be good connection. With this one, I just need to have the card, and I'm either going to get help, I want to go into a lockdown. I don't need to worry about all the other stuff, because that's the administrative side. Administrators need to worry about if it's secure or hold. They need to make those decisions. If I'm a teacher, I need to either get help, or there's something that I need to put into a lockdown. And I have that power to put the whole school into lockdown from anywhere on my campus. So that was, to me, that was the beauty of it. They don't need an app. They don't need to download anything. They don't even have their phone with them, because that's an issue sometimes, you know, it's, well, it's my personal phone, I don't want to put that app on it. I can't make you. So. I know, I'm way over time.
No, you're good, you're good.
Any other questions? About safety protocols, standard response protocols. So that's something we drill, and we actually have a student advisory council, superintendent advisory council, sorry, and we have a subgroup that is working on safety, and they're actually wanting to do some safety stuff, so hopefully that'll be coming soon. The biggest thing with the standard response protocols is getting the message out, right? And so we've trained our teachers, we've trained our students. They all know what to do, but that's within our staff. The hard part, and what we found from when we had an incident at Alexander, was law enforcement coming in, they don't have those protocols. They don't train on those protocols. They don't know what language we were using, right? So when we say secure, they're like, what does that mean? And then the word reunification started coming out. I was like, wait, we're not even close to that right now.
That's where your incident command takes place. You said your officer sets up incident command, so he's a point of contact. So if he's walking around, he's setting up incident command, and the system's not working, so that officer needs to communicate with the arriving entities.
And in that case, there was just so many so fast.
I know, but
Yeah,
you should talk to their
yes.
incident command.
And so that's what we've done now is so we've started having walkthroughs, and where we invite all the law enforcement agencies. So we recently, last year we had one, we were going to have one coming up again. We had fire, we had LPD, we had sheriffs, ATF, FBI, constables, district attorney, and county attorney. All of them were there, and we went through our protocols, went through our languages, and what that means to us. So if I say lockdown, law enforcement didn't know that if I'm in a lockdown and I'm inside the classroom and somebody knocks and says, police, open the door, you don't open the door. I don't care what you say. We're not gonna open the door. And so they didn't know that. And so we have other procedures and protocols that we needed to teach them as well. So we're building those opportunities to share that with them. I just recently met with the fire department. There's about 3 or 4 chiefs in there. I'm going over that same stuff with them as well, what our protocols, policies, and procedures are for our side, so that when they're addressing or they're coming into our campuses, and if we say we're in a secure, well, what does that mean? Or we're in a hold, we're in a lockdown. Well, what does that mean? What is it going to look like inside? And so what we'll do is we'll actually call the lockdown. We'll have the officers and walk through the hallways, see what it looks like in the classroom. And we actually let them see a passing period. So you see, for those of you who work in any campus, when that bell rings, those hallways, it's pretty nuts, right? And then when we call a lockdown, you see the difference in how the hallways are, going through, checking doors, showing them the procedures of how to actually enter the door. So they actually enter the classrooms and go speak to some of the students. And so that's something that we've started last year, and we're continuing this year. We're trying to get more and more done. It's just, it's hard also to coordinate all of those agencies to come in at the same time. But we're continuing to try to get that message out to share so that incident command as well is a big issue. I know fire, that is their bread and butter. Every incident that they go to, they have that structure. So they've got it down pat. For us, for even the police departments generally, there isn't that structure for every incident, right? Some incidents, they never have to go into that structure. They have it down packed. So that's something that we need more training on, and we're trying to get more training on and bring that into the radar. I know there's a couple of sessions we've been talking to law enforcement with fire actually with, to bring down and so we could have that. So everything, like I say, in safety is if we're not perfect, we're gonna get there. And so we're always working to improve. We're always working to better ourselves and making sure that our students and our staffs are always safe.
Real quickly, during a fire drill or evacuating us employees and the children, do we have to walk out with arms up in the air, or?
So if it's a fire drill?
There's a little bit of miscommunication.
Yeah, so Generally speaking, if it's a law enforcement taking over an incident, right? So we're in a lockdown and then we have to evacuate because there was an active shooter event. Generally speaking, and seeing it actually happen live, they're gonna have you to have your hands out, right? So one thing that we try to teach our students now is their favorite thing is their phones. So if I have this pointed out as an officer in a dark room that has a big flashlight on it, it's not a good thing. So we try to teach them not to do that. But for your own safety, nothing in your hands and hands up if that's the situation. Now, if it's a fire drill or a fire alarm goes off and we're evacuating because of that, you don't have to have it.
Sorry.
Yes.
Are children or kids, when, if there is a lockdown, and say that there is an active shooter, and there's other children or kids still in the hall, like I know that they're told to go to a room, but if they can stay in a room because they're told not to let anybody in, like are kids taught like what to do if a police officer comes in and they like it's not fine? Like what, I mean, what do they?
So so there's a different, so there's a program called CRAZE, right? So we don't follow CRAZE, but that is a civilian response to an active shooter event. But some of the parts of CRAZE are in the training that the students, so the one that you saw is the law enforcement side video. There's a student video that does say, but it's not for elementary.
Yes, just
Middle school, high school. For them, it does say to run. So if you aren't able to get behind a closed locked door, you go away from the danger. So yes, you run, you go out, you exit, you try to get away as far as possible. So a lot of it is situational awareness. And so that's a hard thing to teach sometimes because generally speaking, you talk to any police officer, law enforcement, first responder, they're gonna probably tell you where all the exits are, they can tell you where the fire extinguishers are, they can tell you where everything, right? Normal civilians, people that don't deal with this on a daily basis, they walk in and it's like, oh, look, it's a pretty plate, it's pretty food, and it tastes good and yum, right? Pretty curtains. They're not looking for that exit sign. They're not looking to where I'm facing. Yeah, he sees everything. He's right by the exit. Fire alarm's right there, fire extinguisher's right there. So, so that's a little bit harder to train. But to their credit, that's part of what actually the students from that superintendent advisory, what they're asking us to work on, or they're going to be part of working on, is a video for those situations. So the lockdown during passing, the lockdown during lunch, which aren't drilled so much. Some campuses do, because it's a lot more complicated, right? Especially if you've got a campus with 3,000 students in it, and 1,000 of them are at lunch at one time. So, but that's their goal, and they're working with us, and so we're going to work together to create that video and that training, and then actually run those drills now.
And what types of students? Is it just like any student that's interested?
So I'm not exactly sure how they got onto the Student Advisory Council, but I know they're representatives usually from different organizations at that campus. So there's usually a basketball class sponsor, cheerleader, one representative from each different organization that's at each campus. So it could be, from the ag, it doesn't matter what organization, they'll just have a representative there. Yes. Go ahead.
Alrighty, well, I do want to say thank you to our both presenters. Mr. Ayala, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. I know we ran over a little bit of time, but I mean, all this information was great information, and ultimately that's what we want to do, is be proactive and get the information out. If you didn't pick up a flyer when you walked in, make sure you grab one. It has the other 2 dates that we're going to have for the spring semester, so mark your calendars. And please, if you can bring a guest with you, we'd love to have more people, because the more people we inform, the more this good information gets spread out to our community and to anybody who's in our school district. So thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a happy